back to the Hello Goddess podcast. I am your host, Mandy Dea, a recently graduated naturopath, and today we have a special guest. Her name is Stepanka. Hello, my dear.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show. So, Stepanka is a hypnotherapist and coach, and she is from the Czech Republic, but she's currently living in England. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
That is so amazing. We're up in Canada, so it's cool to connect with people from all around the globe with the podcast. It's like so exciting to make these connections. So I'm really happy that we met.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here. And I can already feel that we are going to have a really great conversation.
100%. So I would love to know more about your background, your journey. Like, what led you to become a hypnotherapist?
So, from quite a young age, I had an interest in psychology. I always felt like maybe I'm here to support others and help them. I was interested in how the subconscious mind works. And it was also my favorite subject at school. So I really loved like psychology, social science. I really enjoyed all of that. But I really didn't know how I could do those things. I knew about the more of a traditional path of becoming a psychologist and studying psychology at university. I wasn't quite sure whether that's the thing for me. And I also had such a huge imposter syndrome. I felt like maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough to study psychology. And I actually never even applied
Mm,
even though it was the thing I was so interested in. But in hindsight, I'm really grateful for it because it gave me the lessons I probably needed. But it wasn't really until I was in my first year at university, which is when I started having these random I didn't know they were psychosomatic health problems, but just random health problems. I would have fever on and off. I would have an upset tummy all the time. I couldn't really hold food in my stomach. I just felt completely exhausted and I didn't know what was going on. So I went to see my doctor. He referred me to a different specialists. I had undergone so many tests, but all of them showed that there was nothing wrong with me, that I was in perfect health, in fact. And for a while, that left me feeling like I'm not being taken seriously. And how am I going to deal with it? Like, I can't be living with fever. I need to go to classes. And I felt under so much pressure being a first year university student. I wanted to do well and I wanted to fit in and make new friends. So I I felt quite low, if if that makes sense, because I felt really alone. But this is also when the breakthrough happened. Because I do believe that we are always being guided. And if we keep our heart and eyes open, the signs and the help will always come. And I had this strange experience when I was signing up for swimming, and I ended up being signed up for yoga. And the program I used glitched. Basically, at university in Prague, which is where I come from, I had to take a sport class, but it could be anything. And I'm not really into sports. So I looked at swimming and I'm like, yeah, I can log in that I swim from like 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. And I should get all the points I needed. And so that's basically what I was gonna do. But somehow it glitched and I ended up being signed up for yoga instead. And I already felt like, that's such a strange thing, but I should really go there and see what it's like. Maybe it's meant to be. Maybe I'm gonna really enjoy it. And at that very same yoga class, the teacher introduced us to a hypnotic relaxation technique.
oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and she didn't call it hypnotic relaxation technique. She said this is a technique I was introduced to. It's really good. And I had this feeling like, especially the first year students will really need it to feel more grounded, to feel more present, to release stress. And she literally just told us to lie down on our yoga mats and listen to the recording. And Mandy, like within minutes, I felt differently. It was that quick. I felt so present. I felt like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know it can feel this good to be present in my body. And it sounds like a cliche, but I felt changed even just after one thing, one technique, listening to this once. And I went back home and I repeated that same process the way I remembered it from the class for a week, in the morning, in the evening. And the most amazing thing happened. All of those health problems, they just went away. They just disappeared. It was that quick. And I all of a sudden felt like my whole world was changed, because if it's possible to overcome those health problems this quickly, what else is possible for me if I use the power of my mind? And it almost like put everything else into a whole new perspective. And I completely lost interest in the subject I was studying. And I was just constantly reading more and more about the subconscious mind and about spirituality, about the law of attraction, about the power of our thoughts, intentionality, mindfulness, everything. I also became like a yoga addict at the same time. And I was just
Love it.
doing different techniques, different visualizations, breath work. And I just felt like that's what I want to be doing. And I didn't know how I could pursue it, because I felt like maybe the traditional path of psychology maybe is not even for me, actually.
Right.
And that's what took me to England, because I decided to take a gap year and have a break and just have a think about what it is that I want to do. And I thought, well, I could really do with learning English, improving English. My stronger language was German. I studied German language all the time. I was so fluent at German. So I thought, well, maybe it's time to actually improve my English, such an important language. And that's what really happened. And a few years later, um, I met a founder of a private hypnotherapy college. Again,
Oh,
another like synchronicity. And I ended up winning a scholarship, and I studied clinical hypnosis for a few years. And I started my practice in 2019.
that's so incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to share and to be so vulnerable about your story and what you struggled with, because I think that a lot of people will identify with your story. Like they have all these symptoms and they go to the doctor and they're like, no, everything's fine. I don't know what to tell you. And then people, we're becoming more and more open-minded to alternative therapies. Um, so yeah, we have a very similar story. I studied a little bit of psychology too as well in university, and I ended up leaving because I wanted to pursue something that was more holistic, which led me to Reiki and then naturopathy. And I totally understand what you mean by the power of the subconscious mind and how it can switch super fast, because I practice meditation a lot. I've never been to a hypnotherapist. Hopefully we can have a session after this sometime, I'll go and consult you. But sometimes through deep meditations, I would have these breakthroughs and then my whole life would change instantly. So,
Mm.
100% understand what you were explaining right there. So yeah, it's very beautiful. And now you work with women entrepreneurs. Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah. Yes, it didn't start that way. So I started supporting women with the issues I was most familiar with. I knew from the get-go I did not want to do the traditional hypnotherapy issues, which here in the UK, hypnosis is quite well known as a therapy approach, but often for things like weight loss and quit smoking and like quitting bad habits, all of those things. Hypnobirthing is actually also quite well known, which is great in my opinion. But I knew I wanted to work with women, and I knew like it was gonna be all about empowerment. And I
Mm,
focused on the issues I was really familiar with, such as perfectionism, anxiety, fears, panic attacks, even. And that's how I started working with women. And I was just loving it. I was really enjoying it. And over time, I realized that the majority of my clients were now female business owners, entrepreneurs, ambitious women who are quite driven, self motivated, and while they might have like blocks and fears, they are slightly different now because these women are already motivated. They already have goals and visions. They are not lost. It's
mhm,
more like they already know their mindset is so incredibly powerful, and they want to have beautifully regulated nervous systems so they can receive more clients. They want to up level. So it
mhm,
slightly changed. Some clients have actually stayed with me because once we resolved the like immediate issues, they were like, well, it's working so well. I want to be coached. I want to do more of this, not to like fix anything in my life, but to take it to that next level. And I
mhm,
feel that's what happened a few years back, that actually my clientele slightly shifted, and they are women who want to take things to the next level. So things might be good, things might be okay, but they're
mhm,
like, yeah, I just feel like there is more for me. And I really love that. I really enjoy it because I find those kind of clients, they're like really into it just like me. They are like, yeah, I really want to have fun with this. I want to use the power of my mind, my nervous system to make life even more epic.
mhm. That's beautiful. Yeah, and it helps when you have a client that's really motivated to change and to make these these
Yeah.
habits um to empower them to have that next level experience in their lives. So 100% agree with you there. But
Mhm.
yeah, I was reading about your work and I really love that you have different specialties, like you also do EFT
Mhm.
and you incorporate coaching. And I saw that one of the elements that you help a lot of women with is self-sabotage.
Mhm.
And that is something that I struggle with, and I know a lot of people struggle with when they want to get to that next level, either in their career, but it could be in any area in their lives. So,
Absolutely.
what do you think's going on there, and how do you help them navigate that?
So self-sabotage, let me just explain maybe what it could look like for those who are listening and maybe are not familiar with the term self-sabotage as much, or maybe you've heard it, but I find it's really good to give an example to illustrate how it usually happens. So a typical self-sabotaging behavior could be procrastination, for example, or staying in your comfort zone. It could look like repeating similar patterns. Maybe it's a different situation, different people, but it's almost like the same thing is happening again. Or you seem to do really well. You might have a really great month in your business, or you might get promoted, or that house you've been wanting to get, like it's on its way, like it's happening, you've signed the paperwork, so things are really good. Maybe you have even had a leap and you're like in a whole new place, like maybe a big shift has happened and you're like really happy. And that's sometimes when we hit that upper limit. It's almost like our nervous system gets scared that it, it can't be this good. Something has to go wrong now, like because I'm not
Yeah.
used to this level of happiness, expansion, joy, abundance. And we will subconsciously, we don't do it consciously, subconsciously, we will create an issue.
Mhm.
We will get ourselves into a situation that's not comfortable, or criticism will kick in. You might start criticizing someone else, such as your partner, right? You might be picking fights with someone. You might fall out with your parent, even though things were going okay. So it's almost like we subconsciously find evidence to prove that belief that it can't be this good.
Yeah.
So self-sabotage is when you are getting in the way. You are the one stopping yourself from having a sustainable growth. And I feel like procrastination is one of those examples that many people relate with, or extreme perfectionism, doing things really last minute. And any type of self-sabotage is basically self-protection
Mhm.
because you might deep down, again, on that deeper subconscious level, you fear what could be on the other side. What if I do achieve this? What if I do hit this goal? What if I do get my book published? Or what if I do speak on stage in front of others, or have an in-person practice, or whatever your goal or desire is? What if then this will happen? It's almost like, what if it's not safe for me? So we've got to remember that um, while on a conscious level, we have got these amazing visions and goals and desires, and they feel good, they feel expansive. Your subconscious mind doesn't care about them. Your subconscious mind cares about safety. Is this safe for me? And safety is connected to our comfort levels. So and familiarity. So even though you might be repeating the same pattern and you might be feeling like you've been stuck on the same level or things simply are not progressing fast enough, that's because it's your familiar zone. And even if it's uncomfortable, it's still familiar, therefore perceived as safe by your subconscious mind. So it's like we want to keep ourselves on that same level because there are those deeper fears of like, what if I do have more money and then there will be more problems? I will have to like pay more taxes. Or what if I do have in-person practice with loads of amazing clients coming in and then one of them hasn't got that transformation I promised, and I
Right.
will get hate, or they won't be happy, or what if I won't be liked by everyone on the internet? Right? Maybe we see all those hateful comments happening on social media, and on a conscious level, many of us are like, oh, I want to grow my social media. I want to do these things, but we are constantly sabotaging ourselves, maybe not doing the things we want to do, maybe not following through, and so on.
Mm.
Well, the thing is, deep down, you might be actually scared of what would happen if you actually did blow up on social media. Is it making sense so far?
I can relate to a lot of that. Yeah, that makes total sense. And I love what you mentioned about safety. I think that is something people are becoming more aware of, like how your nervous system and your subconscious really takes the lead sometimes when you may think you want something, but it's hard to overcome these systems that are keeping you in one stuck place. But you can't hate those aspects of you. They're just trying to keep you safe. It kind of reminds me of this beautiful quote. I don't know if you know the author Marianne Williamson.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, it's our fear is not that we are inadequate. Our fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness that we are most afraid of. And I resonate with that, and I think you will too, because it's so true. It's like we want that life for ourselves, but some part of us is scared. And so, so important the work that you're doing. So, if you had, let's say, a client that is going through that, how would you work through, like in a session? How would that happen?
hmm So there is a few different things because obviously every client is slightly different. So there
Mhm.
never really is like one blueprint I would follow. Actually, one of the things I often share on social media is that I never use hypnosis scripts or EFT tapping scripts. I really do things intuitively based on that client right there in front of me, using the right words. So when I um, guide them through a hypnosis process, it's really landing. It doesn't feel like I'm just talking at you. It doesn't feel like I'm, forcing you to imagine something that's not resonating with you. Like I really keep it personal and very intuitive in my approach. But generally speaking, when it comes to self-sabotage, when it comes to those deeper fears, like you said, like that quote, let's use that as an example, like actually
Yep.
fearing that success.
Yeah.
fearing how powerful we could be, fearing how good things could actually be. So what that means is that our energetic and emotional baseline is maybe somewhere different. Maybe there is this like anxiety baseline. Like when we so used to feeling anxious, or we are used to worrying, or we are more familiar with things being okay, but we don't actually allow ourselves to feel happy. So what I call this is almost like an expansion process. We've got to familiarize your nervous system that it's safe. That it's totally safe to feel this, and almost like expand your energetic capacity to hold things. Because when you grow, regardless of what it is, if it's growing a business, growing your career, working on yourself, when you grow, there will be new ups and downs that come with it. And and it's okay. That's totally normal. So we've got to like make it okay for our nervous system that we will be able to deal with it. So it is about getting your body, your nervous system used to the nice emotions, really familiarizing your body with them, and then also desensitizing yourself towards those fears. So there is particular hypnosis techniques I really love using when I actually take you to uncomfortable visualizations. It's not all about positive visualizations, and that's such a powerful technique because then we can really work with your nervous system and teach it a new way of responding to something. So I know sometimes people think that hypnosis is all about regression or going back into your childhood, into past lives, but there is so much more to hypnosis. I actually do use more of an approach that focuses on the now and on your future, working really with what we are feeling right now, and teaching your body to respond differently, to think differently, to feel new emotions, and so on and so forth.
That's beautiful. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. And I like your approach of being in the now. There's a lot of other hypnotherapists that are doing, the past, and that's what makes you so unique. And I would love to work with you in the future. Hopefully, some of our listeners will reach out as well. And I wanted to ask you as well, when it comes to you were speaking of expanding and getting into yourself, like connecting with the aspects of yourself that wants more and then stepping into that. Do you think that when we stay in fear and self-sabotage, not only can it manifest in anxiety, but can it manifest also as physical ailments as well?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I do feel that's when sometimes I will use the word attract, but maybe that's not the ideal word to use. But it's like when we end up like attracting certain uncomfortable situations and scenarios that literally help us open our eyes. And one of my favorite authors, Rebecca Campbell,
love
the
her.
author of me too.
Yeah, I love her.
The author of Light is the New Black, Rise is the Rise, Letters to a Star Seed. She's incredible. She honestly was like, I look up to her as one of my first like spiritual mentors. I went to see her in person. She's incredible.
Oh my God, that's incredible. She's one of like Light is the New Black is one of my favorite books of all time. It is.
The same, the
I love
same.
it.
It came to me when I needed it the most, and it really helped me return back to writing, journaling, expressing my creativity in new ways. And it really would get me started, um, like with, going back to psychology and therapies. Like I'm really grateful to Rebecca Campbell for all her incredible work. So, she describes it in Light as the New Black as hitting the rock bottom. Sometimes we actually have got to hit it so that we can arise, and nobody else can do it for us. There is not even like any coach, guide, anyone who can like do certain things for you. Sometimes we have to have a breakthrough moment. So if we are constantly ignoring the voice of our soul, there will be a moment that will like force us to wake up and finally address the deeper desires we have,
Mhm.
and also the fears we have also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do believe that myself as well. And I think that, like you were saying earlier, sometimes we'll attract the same experience over and over again. And if we're not listening, then it's going to be louder and louder
Oh,
until, because our soul is here for a reason. And synchronicities bring us to these moments where we find our path and our passion and purpose. So I'm really thankful that we took the time to explore all of this. I wish we could talk for a lot more because it's so interesting to hear you speak. And hopefully we can be friends after this because I think that we have a lot in common just from, the books that we read, the same books that we read. So if somebody is looking for you and wants to maybe book a session with you, where can they find you?
so you can find me on my website, of course, which is hypnocoaching.me. And I am also on social media. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. On Instagram, you will find me at New Earth Woman. And on Facebook, it's just my name, Stepanka Kuralova. Feel free to send me a friend request, connect with me. I basically use my Facebook profile for sharing all of this, for sharing the things I'm passionate about. I talk about hypnosis. I also have a Facebook community for women called New Earth Women, and there is plenty of resources there also. But if you ever are just like, well, I wonder if like we could work together or what it would look like, you can always just drop me a message and just ask. Like there's
Mhm.
never any pressure to work with me. I always want to make sure it's the right thing for you. And it's
100%.
working with me is not right for everyone because I might not be the right person for everyone as well. And if that's the case, I always try to make the best recommendations I can make for other people. There is also different levels of working with me. I have got packages that are more focusing on like accountability and following through for fellow business owners and ambitious women who actually do really well with having some extra structure in their life. Then I have got my full on immersive hypnotherapy and coaching experience. And that's when women really want to take it to that next level and they do want to have someone in their corner. And then I also have like one-off digital products on my website that people can just purchase and use immediately. So there is different ways of working with me. And if you're not sure, just drop me a message. I'm always happy to chat.
Amazing. And she also has her own podcast called the Inner Glow Podcast. I listened to an episode. It was so interesting. So I highly recommend reaching out. I'll put all of these links in the description
Thank
box below
you.
so it'll be easier for you guys to find her. So for our two closing questions, the first question I have for you is if you could go back in time and speak to a younger version of yourself, what would you say?
Be kind to yourself. Like you are beautiful, you are perfect, you don't need to try to fit in. You already belong in every single space you occupy, and it's gonna be okay. It's all gonna be even better than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The reassurance. I think I was listening to a lot of like Super Soul Sunday episodes by Oprah, and most of their guests, they say if they could speak to their younger self, it's like I would tell them relax. Trust yourself and be kind to yourself. That's so beautiful. And what's your definition of a goddess?
So I see it as an energy, an archetype that is available to all of us, and we all can connect to that energy and step into that archetype. For me, the goddess archetype is all about wisdom, empowerment, strength, resilience, and that kind of like inner knowledge, like intuitive knowledge, really being connected with who you are, knowing that honestly, it does all come from within you. Even when you use things
Yeah.
such as oracle cards, tarot, or even if you work with someone else, they are a reflection of you and they are reflecting your own guidance back at you so you can receive it with a lot more ease as a human. So to me, it's energy. It's all about self-trust, strength, and embodiment of your beautiful divine nature.
Mm. Yes, beautiful traits of the goddess archetype. And so true what you said about working, either you're doing personal work or if you're working with a practitioner, sometimes you need that mirror and just hearing it from somebody else sometimes and that guidance really helps. So thank you so
100%.
much, Stepanka. It was really nice to have you on the show. Really appreciate your time. And like I said, if you guys want to connect with her, reach out. I'm sure she doesn't mind any questions or, all the links are in the description box again. And I'm sending you guys all of the love, all of the light. See you next week. Bye. Bye,
Thank
Stepanka.
you. Bye bye.